Modern life has taught us a quiet habit. When we struggle, we look outside ourselves for the answer. We medicate discomfort. We optimize behavior. We scroll for relief. And slowly, we hand our attention. From above, the city glows, not as streets and buildings, but as a circuit, alive with signals, running on borrowed power. Neuroscience is beginning to notice something unexpected. The brain is not broken. It is simply undercommanded. There is a switch, not chemical, not technological, but cognitive. The belief that you are in control. Watch what happens when one person pauses. The noise freezes. The notifications fall silent. A single breath enters the body, and for the first time, it is chosen. Inside the mind, the prefrontal cortex lights up. Fear quiets. Focus returns. The system wakes. Practices once called mystical are now measured, mapped, and tested. Breath, attention, stillness, ancient tools, meeting modern science, reshaping neural pathways in real time. This is not escape, it is authorship. When we stop outsourcing our agency, the strings dissolve, the brain reorganizes, connections widen, possibility expands, like galaxies forming where limits used to be. You move through the same world, but no longer as a passenger. You are directing the signal. Because the most powerful technology on Earth was never an app, or a pill, or a system. It was installed in you from the beginning. Human agency, the antidote for everything. An Esoteric Lore limited podcast series. The greatest transformation does not arrive from the future. It activates from within.
There are places the mind knows before the body arrives. A hallway with no people, a carpet that looks damp but no water, yellow walls, office lights, drop ceilings, corners that repeat like a bad memory, and somewhere in that repetition, something ancient wakes up inside you. Not a monster, not a demon, not a ghost, something worse. The realization that you may be inside a world where your choices no longer matter. Welcome back to Esoteric Lore. Tonight we enter the Backrooms. Not as a fan of horror, not as a tourist of internet myth, but as a student of the human mind. Because Kane Parsons, director of the Backroom, did not merely build a maze, he built a psychological experiment. He built the architecture of anxiety. He built the spiritual image of a human being trying to access agency in a world that refuses to answer back. The question tonight is not, what are the Backrooms movie all about? The question is, what happens to the human will when reality stops cooperating? The Backrooms are terrifying because they are ordinary. That is the genius, not haunted castles, no graveyards, no ancient curse, just fluorescent lights, carpet, yellow wallpaper, empty rooms. The space looks safe enough to rent, safe enough to work in, safe enough to ignore, and that is exactly why it disturbs us. Kane Parsons, director of the Backrooms, has said that liminal spaces fascinate him because they feel authorless, easy to project onto, and connected to detached childhood memories and dreamlike spatial confusion. In one interview, he described the Backrooms feeling like a childhood home rearranged incorrectly. The semantic information of a place shuffled but still believed by the mind. That is the psychological key. The backrooms are not frightening because they are unknown. They are frightening because they are almost known. And almost known is where the nervous system begins to panic. A truly alien world would be easier. If the backrooms were made of lava, bones, black stars, or impossible geometry, the brain would say, danger, escape. But the backrooms do something more sinister. They imitate normal life. They borrow the emotional furniture of modern society, office buildings, waiting rooms, showrooms, hallways, schools, basements, industrial corridors. These are places built for human use, but emptied of human purpose. Wallpaper described the horror of the backrooms as a place becoming the villain. A liminal office-like maze where familiar architecture loses its expected function. The article also notes that the production built roughly 30,000 square feet of practical sets, enough that the cast and crew reportedly needed maps to avoid getting lost themselves. That matters because the back rooms are not just seen, they are navigated. And navigation is one of the oldest forms of agency. To move through space is to say, I know where I am. I know where I came from. I know where I'm going. I can act. But in the back rooms, every one of those statements breaks. You walk, but do not progress. You turn, but do not orient. You listen, but cannot locate. You remember, but cannot trust memory. This is where horror becomes psychology. The human brain is a predictable machine. It constantly uses memory and expectation to guess what should happen next. Predictive processing theories describe perception not as passive recording, but as the brain actively generating models of the world and correcting them through sensory input. Friston's free energy framework similarly treats perception, action, and learning as ways of organisms reduce surprise or uncertainty. The back rooms attack that system of surprise and uncertainty. Every hallway says, you have been here before. Every corner says, no, you have not. Every room says, this is normal. Every instinct says, something is wrong. And when the brain cannot reconcile those two signals, anxiety begins. The word liminal comes from the idea of a threshold, an in-between state. Not here, not there, not dead, not alive, not home, not lost, not free, not trapped, just suspended. This is why the back rooms feel like more than horror. They feel like a rite of passage with no elder, no ritual, no map, no exit. Anthropologically, it refers to the middle phase of transition, when an old identity has dissolved but the new one has not yet formed. Modern writing on liminal spaces often connects this, quote, in-between feeling to emotional uncertainty, anxiety, and transformation. Now listen closely. Human agency is also born at thresholds. You do not need agency when everything is automatic. You need agency when the path disappears. You need agency when the old scripts fail. You need human agency when the hallway repeats. You need agency when the life you built becomes unfamiliar. This is the hidden message of the backrooms. The backrooms are not just beneath a building, they are beneath the personality. They are the basement of the self. They are the place you fall into when your routine keep moving, but your soul no longer knows why. Albert Bandura defined human agency as the capacity to influence one's functioning and the course of events through action. He described 4 major functions of agency: intentionality, forethought, self-reactivation, and self-reflectiveness. Now let's put those 4 functions inside the back rooms. Intentionality collapses. Intentionality means I form an aim. But what is an aim inside a maze with no landmarks? The first aim is simple: get out. Then it becomes find a door, then find a sound, then find proof I am not insane, then survive the next room. Agency narrows under fear. The mind that once planned a life is reduced to planning the next 10 feet. Number 2, forethought collapses. Forethought means I can imagine future consequences, but in the back rooms, the future becomes unreadable. A normal hallway promises a destination. A backroom hallway promises only more hallways. This is why the space feels like anxiety itself. Anxiety is not merely fear. Fear has an object. Anxiety has uncertainty. Research on anxiety through the learned uncertainty lens argues that a system shaped by persistent uncertainty can come to expect uncertainty in the future. That is exactly the backrooms, an environment where uncertainty becomes the only rule. Thirdly, self-reactiveness collapses. Self-reactiveness means I regulate myself and act. But regulation requires feedback. When you take an action, the world normally answers. When you knock, a door opens. You run, distance increases. You call, someone hears. In the back rooms, action echoes but does not resolve. That is learned helplessness in architectural form. Classic learned helplessness research described what happens when organisms experience outcome as independent of their response. Eventually, they may stop acting when the escape becomes possible. Later neuroscience has reframed this model, emphasizing how control itself must be learned and can be undermined by prolonged, uncontrollable stress. The backrooms do not just trap the body. They teach the body that trying may not matter at all. Number 4, self-reflectiveness collapses. Self-reflectiveness means I can imagine myself. But prolonged disorientation turns reflection into obsession. Quote, am I going in circles? Did I see that before? Was that sound real? Am I still in the building? Am I still myself? This is the final horror. The backrooms do not merely make you question the room, They make you question the mind reading the room. Here's where the movie becomes cultural prophecy. The backrooms feel modern because so many people already live in symbolic backrooms. Wake up, scroll, work, answer, consume, repeat. Another room, another screen, another hallway, another day. No enemy, no battle, just repetition without revelation. Wallpaper connected to the backrooms, to social exhaustion, loneliness, online life, repetition, and search for a way out. The interpretation fits the film's visual image. The ordinary spaces of modern life become spiritually uninhabitable when they are stripped of relationship, purpose, and exit. This is why the backrooms are not just a Gen Z horror. They are human horror. They speak to anyone who has ever said, quote, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do, so why do I feel lost? They speak to the worker who feels like a ghost in his or her office. The patient who gives everything and forgets themselves. The addict trapped in a loop. The anxious person checking the same mental hallway again and again. The traumatized child who grows into an adult body but still lives inside the old room. The person who has confused motion with direction. That is the backrooms. Movement without agency, existence without orientation. A life that looks normal from the outside, but inside the walls are yellow and endless. Most horrors ask, what is chasing? But the backrooms ask, what if nothing has to chase you because the environment itself has already defeated your will? That is deeper, because the true monster is not a creature. The true monster is disorientation. The true monster is unpredictability. The true monster is repetition without progress. The true monster is the collapse of meaning. The creature, if it appears, is only the nervous system's nightmare-given form. But the real terror arrives earlier. It arrives the moment the character realizes my map does not work here. And that is where human agency begins its test. Because agency is not controlling everything. Agency is the disciplined ability to choose the next right action when control is incomplete. This is where backrooms become more than cinema. It becomes training. So what does the backrooms teach us about accessing human agency? It teaches us that agency is not loud. Agency is not motivational shouting. It is not pretending fear does not exist. Agency begins with a pause. A real pause. The pause says, I am disoriented, but I am not dissolved. I am afraid, but I am still observing. I do not know the whole maze, but I can choose my next action. I cannot control the backrooms, but I can control how I meet this hallway. This is why agency must be trained before crises. You do not build agency inside the maze. You reveal whether you build it before you fell in. Bandura's model matters here because agency is not fantasy. It is a functioning system, intention, future orientation, self-regulation, self-reflection. When those four remain online, human beings remain a participant in life rather than merely a passenger of panic. Inside the back rooms, the agency protocol would look like this. Name the room. This is disorientation. Name the body. My heart is racing. My breath is shallow. My nervous system is scanning. Name the aim. My aim is to not solve the entire maze. My aim is to take the next intelligent step. Name the rule. I will not let fear make me random. That sentence is powerful. I will not let fear make me random. Because randomness is what the back room want. Random running, random turning, random panic, random despair. Agency begins when action becomes intentional again. There's another layer. The backrooms may be read as the unconscious mind, not in the mystical unconsciousness alone, but the psychological storage room beneath awareness, old memories, unprocessed fear, childhood rooms, dream architecture, emotional wallpaper, buzzing thoughts you got used to. Parsons himself connected the feeling of liminal images to detached childhood memories and dreams and described many of his dreams as architecturally centered. That makes backrooms feel like a random maze and more like the mind trying to walk through memory after context has been stripped away. This is why the backrooms are so intimate. They do not feel like outer space. They feel like a forgotten part of your own life. The hallway from your childhood. The school after everyone left. The mall where your mother once took you. The office where your father worked. The waiting room before bad news. The basement where nobody explained what happened. Liminal horror is memory without a guide. And agency is the guide. Agency is the inner adult entering the old room and saying, I know this place formed me, but it does not get to finish me. Furniture is a domestic order. Chairs, tables, beds, lamps, objects that say life is arranged. A showroom is a staged comfort. Everything looks like home, but nothing is lived in. Then beneath that staged comfort, a doorway appears. That is brilliant, because beneath the staged room of modern life, beneath the curated profile, the productive schedule, the clean branding, the ordinary smile, there may be a doorway into the unresolved maze. The backrooms ask, what is under your showroom? What doorway have you avoided? What basement hum have you learned to ignore? What part of your life looks finished but not inhabited? That is where the episode becomes personal, because every human being eventually discovers a doorway beneath the life they arranged. A divorce, a diagnosis, a death, a betrayal, a panic attack, a spiritual crisis, a child leaving home, a parent aging, a dream dying, a habit becoming a prison. Suddenly the floor opens. You, no clip, out of your life, you don't recognize. And you are in the back rooms. Not cinematic back rooms, real back rooms. The psychological space where old maps no longer apply. This is when agency becomes sacred. The way out of the back rooms is not merely an exit. The way out is the restoration of meaning, because a room becomes survivable when it is named. A hallway becomes open and accessible when it is mapped. Fear becomes workable when it is witnessed. Agency returns when the human being stops asking, "How do I escape?" and begins asking, "What is the next true action?" That is the shift from panic to pause, from reaction to observation, from helplessness to experiment, from maze to mission. The Backrooms are a horror story about losing the exit. Human agency is the discipline of becoming that exit. Maybe Kane Parsons, director of the Backrooms, gave us the defining horror image of our time because he understood something intuitively. Modern people are not only afraid of monsters, we are afraid of meaningless repetition. We are afraid of being trapped in a system we do not design. We are afraid of walking forever through rooms that look useful but lead nowhere. We are afraid of our lives becoming fluorescent. But here is the deeper truth. The Backrooms do not defeat the human being who remembers how to pause, because the pause restores the witness. The witness restores choice. Choice restores agency. Agency restores direction, and direction restores the soul. So, when you find yourself in the yellow rooms of your own life, when everything looks familiar but nothing feels right, do not run randomly. Stop. Breathe. Look. Name the room. Choose the next action. Because the maze wants your panic, but your agency wants your attention. And the moment you reclaim attention, you are no longer only trapped inside the back rooms, you are studying them, mapping them, learning them, and perhaps for the first time walking through them as the author of your own exit. This has been Esoteric Lore, and tonight's lesson is simple. The back rooms are what life feels when agency goes offline. But the way out begins the moment you come back online. The back rooms are not about being lost in a building. They are about being lost in a mind that cannot no longer trust its own map. Human agency is how we find the exit.
There's a moment after you hear something true when it lands in your body. Not as an idea, but as a decision. I don't want to keep living on autopilot. Because autopilot isn't weakness, it's your nervous system running fast patterns under pressure. That's why smart people still snap, scroll, avoid, and repeat. Here's the reframe that matters. You are not your reactions. A reaction is a surge. You are the one who can interrupt it. Not by calming down perfectly, but by creating a small gap, a pause. Seconds of space where choice becomes possible. That's also why insight alone doesn't change behavior. Under stress, knowledge disappears. Skills don't. Skills are trained. The Agency Academy book gives you the blueprint. It explains what's happening and where your leverage actually is. The Pause app is the training ground. It helps you practice in real moments when it's hard. If you're tired of reacting, go to iwillpause.com. Start training, claim the book, and choose differently in the next moment that matters.
If you like this video, please subscribe, share, and give us a thumbs up. Thanks for watching. See you next time.